And so the total of the week comes to in this video you will find out how to spend 7 days in London, paying for the cheapest transport, the cheapest food, the cheapest accommodation, the cheapest coffees and the cheapest activities. You will find here the chapters of the video if there are only certain aspects that interest you, and you can skip to that. That being said, let's begin. The cheapest way accommodation-wise is either house sitting, where you look after someone's house and someone's pet. If you have a friend or a friend of a friend in London who has some space, or maybe they're going away on a holiday and you can stay there. Then there's the website Couchsurfing, where you can stay with somebody local for free. Obviously, some of these websites charge a fee, which I didn't include in this video because I just wanted to focus on the basics, and also if you subscribe to one of these sites, you'll be able to use them for a whole year. The other thing is that what these sites charge highly varies. So you could go for one of the cheaper ones, or you could go for one of the more expensive ones. Now food, the most important part. Obviously you have to eat, and depending on how you're going to do that, that could be very expensive or that could be very cheap. For the purpose of putting together meals for you for the 7 days and get you through the week as cheap as possible, I went to Aldi, Lidl and Morrison. However, I got most of my prices from Aldi. Aldi and Lidl do not really vary that much in the price, but also Morrison has a lot of really good prices. I guess it will depend where in London you're based and which cheap supermarkets is easiest for you to reach during your week. So for your breakfast, I looked at 3 different options. I was first thinking of oats. However, you really need to eat organic oats no matter what your budget is, because you don't want to eat chemicals. Then I looked at Cocoa Pops and another one which I'm going to show here. Cocoa Pops, I think it's probably the cheapest granola, around £2.25, plus if you eat the granola with yogurt for a whole week is about £2. In the end of the day, because you want to see a lot during that week, I think you need to eat something proper, which in my opinion is the organic oats with milk. So you'll cook them with milk and water, and that will give you a very filling breakfast every morning. And that's your breakfast sorted. Then let's talk about lunch. You're going to pack your lunch every day. You're going to make a sandwich, and then you can have maybe an apple or a banana. Obviously you can vary, you can decide what you're gonna have. Could also be a different fruit, and possibly some snacks. I will cover the snacks at the end, and those you could obviously eat whenever it suits you during the day. So bread, there are a couple of different options. In this case, again, I didn't actually choose the absolute cheapest one. I could show you the absolute cheapest one here, but I thought, again, you do need to eat something proper. So I chose the bread that costs you £1.25, butter for 99p, apples for £1.65, bananas, pretty good, 7 bananas for £1.19, cheese £2.79, but you're gonna be able to use the cheese in your dinners as well, and 2 packages of ham for 75p. This comes to £9.37 in total. Now let's have a look at dinner. For dinner I chose, I only chose 5 dinners. I didn't choose 7 dinners. Okay, I'm just going to calculate the median. What do you say in English? In German we say median. Okay, anyway, I've chosen 2 pasta dinners for you, pasta pesto, and 3 dinners that you can alternate with jacket potato, baked beans, very British while you're here, cheddar cheese, which you've already paid for at the lunch, and tuna. You can also alternate this with a few other things. Just for the purpose of this video, trying to get the cheapest, these are the things that I chose. Now, you may be very surprised, but you can get a packet of spaghetti for 28p. This is at Lidl, Morrison's, and Tesco. So those are the three shops that sell 28p spaghetti. Otherwise, you probably pay about 75p, which is also okay. Also, I wanted to mention that I find that Aldi really has the best feta cheese. It tastes so amazing. Pesto you can get for 89p. So the jacket potato, for example, at Aldi, I think it's gonna be about 1 kilo or 1.5 kilo. Well, plenty for the rest of the week, are sold for £2.09. However, I did find that Morrison sells potatoes, 4 baking potatoes for 89p, and M&S also sells a packet of baking potatoes for 1.35. So it kind of all depends where you shop. For the beans, the cheapest beans which I found at Aldi, but also Morrison's, and I'm assuming that it will be the same for Lidl, just 40 pence for 1 can. So I would buy 2 cans for that week. Cheese you already paid for. Tuna, I would get 2 tunas for 65p. So altogether, this is going to be £6.53. However, I do need to calculate as if it was 7. Okay, so I've just calculated it. It comes out to about 1.30 per dinner, and it's coming out to about for your dinners over the week if you stay within that same price range. Now, snacks. I have put down, okay, let's just grab 3 cheap chocolates and 2 packages of crisps. The cheapest chips, actually I didn't find any that day, but I have looked since in other shops. It's usually around the £1.20p mark. And if you want something completely different, well, maybe not completely different, but I also looked at banana chips, which are 1.39, which are on the healthier side. Aldi actually has really, really nice chocolates, which I'm going to show you here. However, they are £3.29. They used to be £2.99, but they recently went up. The total is £4.35 for snacks that week. Now let's talk about coffees. Coffees are always high on my list. So how can you get a coffee when you're out and about but you don't want to spend much money? You download the My Waitrose card. So if you're not from here, Waitrose is just a grocery shop, but if you shop there, you can get a free beverage at the end of your shopping. I think that can also be a tea, but it can definitely be a variety of coffees, whether that's a cappuccino, a cafe latte. This is my first coffee at Waitrose. Okay, quick test. Let's see. It's pretty good. They used to have a minimum spend, but they've recently dropped that. So that means you could simply purchase a banana, which is usually around 25 pence, and get a free coffee with that. The only catch is you need to bring your own cup. But as long as you know that, I think that's very doable. The other way of getting a cheap coffee is to go to Pret a Manger and order a filter coffee. Filter coffees are not advertised when you come into the shop. However, most Pret shops do have them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And they cost between £1 and £1.20 depending on which area in London you're in. And for this drink, you don't even need an app, or you don't need to bring your own mug. You might not get a coffee every single day. I did 2 coffees from Waitrose. The reason I did that is because you may not always come past a Waitrose. It's probably much more likely for you to come past a Pret while you're going around. Kind of depends where you're going. But that's why I put down 2 coffees from Waitrose, which will only cost you 25p, and 3 coffees from Pret, which will cost you between 1 and 120, but I wrote 120. And then maybe 2 times you can bring your own cup and get your own drink from home and just keep it hot. So that comes to £4.10. In terms of transportation, the absolute cheapest way to get around London is to use the London buses. One ride is £1.75. You can ride as many London buses as you like for that price within the hour. It might be 59 minutes, you may have to look that up, but about an hour. You could pick a place where you want to go, take the bus there, £1.75, take the bus back, that makes £3.50 per day. In a span of 7 days, you might also just want to chill at home for 1 or 2 days, so you would not spend any money on transport on those days. You could also have a look from your accommodation, what's around, do all of that on foot, and then only use the bus when it's really needed. Something else that's just come up as I was researching this video is that between the 25th of July and the 31st of August, Saturday and Sunday, you will only pay £1.75 in total, no matter how many buses you ride. That's something the Mayor of London has just announced. So if you come during that time, you can take advantage of that. What can you actually do for free or for little money? Now, in this video, I've just focused on the things that are actually free, because if this is your first visit to London, there is so much to see that is for free. You can go to Buckingham Palace and walk around there. You can go to Big Ben, Greenwich, walk up the hill in Greenwich, have a nice view over the city. You can go to Notting Hill, look at all the colorful houses. You can go to any of the free museums. There's quite a few, and they're mostly in the Kensington area. You can go to Tower Bridge, walk the bridge, take some amazing pictures, walk along the Thames, go up the Sky Garden. That's also free. However, you do need to book that in advance. Hampstead Heath is a lovely park that you can walk around, and much more. You can have a look, and you may also want to do some activities that are not free but budget friendly. And so the total of the week comes to, which is absolutely amazing. Obviously, depending on where you're coming from, whether you're coming by train, whether you're in the UK, or whether you're coming on a plane, that's obviously not calculated in this video, but just staying in London for a week, including all your meals, transport and accommodation, that is mad. I think that's crazy. Obviously, you can vary your meals. You don't have to buy exactly what I've written down. I've just given you some ideas. Lots of items that are frozen are very often very inexpensive, like frozen battered fish or frozen chicken wings and like frozen peas. And also obviously you can check what deals that supermarket has on the day that you're going, because there's always gonna be deals, but sometimes the deal's not as good as it looks. Sometimes you actually pay more than if you buy a cheaper product. So watch out. Be very careful. Not every freezer meal tastes great. For example, the other day I thought, oh, I'll try frozen mushrooms, because I saw a bag of frozen mushrooms for £1.50 and it was already cut up and everything, and it said at the back of it, just throw in a pan, you don't even have to defrost it, and it's so easy, blah blah blah. I've really come to regret buying these because they taste absolutely horrible. So definitely do not recommend. Maybe you've already made your own experience at home with frozen dishes. Also, you may want to get some ice cream. There's usually some really cheap options at Lidl and Aldi, especially if you're here on holiday, which you would be, I guess. And then obviously you could always check back with wherever you're staying, what items are you allowed to use up, and mix them in with things that you buy. So you could have a really amazing week. You could look very fancy, going to all these fancy places, and nobody would ever know that you did all of that for only £55. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and I'll see you next time. Bye!